Welcome to the Stoic tide. There's a kind of power you can't fake. It's the quiet confidence that doesn't need to speak, the calm that doesn't need to prove itself. While others chase attention, the Stoic man moves in silence, and the world feels his presence without a single word. Today we're not talking about charm or money or looks. We're talking about something rarer: how to be silently attractive. Have you ever met someone who walks into a room and instantly grabs attention, not because they're loud, flashy, or trying too hard, but because there's something about them that feels effortlessly magnetic? That's silent attractiveness. It's not about being the center of attention. It's about commanding respect and admiration without saying much. But here's the uncomfortable truth: most people will never have it. Why? Because they spend their lives begging for scraps of validation, burning themselves out, trying to be seen while ignoring the quiet strength that tears through the noise without. Making a sound true presence isn't built on tricks. It's built on character discipline and the courage to stand alone when the crowd demands you follow, if you're ready to stop chasing approval and start becoming the kind of person who draws others. Without trying, consider subscribing for you. Let this be your first step toward mastery of self, where growth, clarity, and purpose replace noise, chaos, and the need to prove yourself. 1. Own your independence. Some people walk into a room and it's as if the air shifts, yet they haven't said a word. They aren't wearing the loudest outfit. They're not telling the funniest story, and they certainly aren't scrambling for anyone's attention. What they have is something far rarer: a grounded sense of self that's impossible to fake. This kind of presence comes from an inner foundation that doesn't need to be constantly propped up by the approval of others. Independence starts with a subtle but profound shift, deciding that your value doesn't hinge on how many people like you, agree with you, or validate you. In a world where comparison has become a reflex and public approval is a form of currency, this choice is almost revolutionary. The ancient Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius advised, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." True independence is about reversing that imbalance. It's learning to respect your own judgment as much as, if not more than, the chorus of voices around you. This doesn't mean shutting out all feedback. It means having a strong enough internal compass that you can take advice without being blown off course. By every passing opinion, living on your terms doesn't require grand dramatic gestures. In fact, it usually begins with quiet, deliberate actions that gradually strengthen your confidence. Maybe you start by making small choices without immediately asking for someone else's approval. Order the dish you actually want at a restaurant without checking what others are getting. Wear the jacket you love even if it's not in style. This season, spend a weekend doing something that excites you instead of something you think you should be doing to appear busy or successful. But here's the thing about independence: it's not the absence of connection. People often mistake self-reliance for a refusal to let others in. But that's not strength, it's fear disguised as pride. Real independence means you can be deeply connected without being dependent. You can enjoy companionship without clinging to it. You can take someone's perspective into account without letting it replace your own. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." That bravery comes from trusting that you can stand alone if needed, which paradoxically allows you to engage more authentically with others. You're not in relationships because you need someone to complete you. You're in them because you choose to share your already complete self. To get there, you have to be willing to spend time with yourself, not out of loneliness, but out of genuine interest. For some, that might mean sitting in silence for 10 minutes a day to reflect on how they're feeling. For others, it could be taking themselves out for a coffee or a solo walk without the distraction of music or podcasts. At first, you might feel restless. That's natural. We've been conditioned to fill every gap with noise to avoid confronting our own thoughts. But the more you practice being alone with yourself, the more you realize that solitude isn't empty. It's a space where clarity grows. Epictetus put it plainly: freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. When you become comfortable in your own company, you stop trying to control how others see you, and you begin to focus on what you can control: your actions, your mindset, your principles. This doesn't happen overnight. Building independence is like strengthening a muscle. It requires consistent use and a willingness to push through discomfort. And yes, There will be moments when doubt creeps in. You might make a decision that others question. You might feel the sting of disapproval from people whose opinions you once valued. This is where the Stoic mindset becomes your shield. Remember that no one's approval can protect you from life's challenges, and no one's disapproval can strip you of your integrity unless you hand it over willingly. The French philosopher Michel de Montaigne once wrote, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself." That's the quiet truth at the heart of independence. You belong to yourself first. A truly independent person also knows that life isn't about constant resistance. You don't have to prove your strength in every interaction. Sometimes it's about quietly following your own path while letting others follow. Think about a mountain. It doesn't need to shout its height or defend its presence. It simply stands unshaken by storms or seasons. In the same way, when you live by your values, your stability becomes evident to those around you. You'll notice that people start to treat you differently, not because you demanded respect, but because your composure, clarity, and self-trust naturally commanded. This is what makes independence magnetic. Of course, this kind of independence requires honesty. The kind that forces you to ask hard questions. Am I living the life I truly want, or the life others expect me to live? Do I say yes out of genuine desire, or out of fear that saying no will cost me approval? Am I making choices because they align with my principles or because they make me look good to others? These aren't comfortable questions, but they're necessary ones in practicing independence. You'll find that you naturally attract a different kind of attention instead of chasing people. You'll notice them gravitating toward you, not because you're trying to impress them, but because they can sense your groundedness. There's an unspoken allure in someone who doesn't need the room's energy to feel alive, who isn't swayed by every opinion, and who can enjoy their own company without apology. In a culture addicted to noise and constant display, your calm self-assurance becomes a rare and valuable currency. And here's the irony. The more you live for your own approval instead of everyone else's, the more respect you tend to earn. People trust those who know where they stand. They're drawn to those who make decisions without hesitation, not because they're stubborn, but because they've done the work of understanding themselves. You don't have to tell anyone you're confident they'll feel it. You don't have to announce your independence. It will show in the way you walk, in the way you listen, in the way you say no without guilt, and yes, without resentment. So start small. Take yourself somewhere you've always wanted to go. Make one decision today, without asking for input. Spend an hour alone, without filling the silence. Pay attention to how it feels to rely on your own judgment, to stand in your own certainty. These are the small seeds from which deep independence grows, and when it does, it becomes a part of you that no one can take away. Because at the end of the day, independence isn't about pushing the world out. It's about building yourself up from the inside, so that the world's noise can't knock you down. It's about cultivating the kind of self-trust that allows you to move through life with quiet strength. And as the Stoics, the philosophers, and the psychologists all agree, that's the kind of power that lasts. Once you have it, you'll never need to chase respect again because it will follow you wherever you go. 2. Master silent elegance. There's a certain kind of presence that doesn't need to announce itself yet. It lingers in people's minds long after you've left the room. It's not the kind that comes from flashy clothes, dramatic entrances, or dominating every conversation. No, it's subtler than that, deeper than that. It's the quiet way someone carries themselves, the way they seem, unshaken by chaos, the way they hold space without competing for it. This is what I call silent elegance, a power that can't be faked because it comes from the inside out. Silent elegance is built on 3 main pillars: composure, intentional movement, and mindful interaction. Composure is the foundation. It's the ability to remain steady regardless of what's going on around you. The Stoics saw this as one of the highest virtues. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. When you carry yourself with composure, it's as if you're telling the world, I am grounded, I am steady, and I am not easily swayed." That alone is magnetic. People notice when someone isn't rattled by every shift in the conversation, every awkward pause, or every unexpected turn of events. The next pillar, intentional. Movement is about how you physically show up in the world. You don't have to be rigid or overly formal. In fact, stiffness is the enemy of elegance. Instead, focus on moving in a way that's calm but deliberate. When you walk into a room, do it with a relaxed posture, shoulders slightly back, and your head held naturally, not too high as if you're looking down on people, and not too low as if you're avoiding them. Your steps should be unhurried, not slow in a way that drags, but paced in a way that tells people you're not in a rush to prove anything. Eye contact is a major part of silent elegance, but it's often misunderstood. It's not about staring people down. It's about holding their gaze long enough to show you're engaged, and then breaking it naturally so it feels comfortable. Too little eye contact can make you seem disconnected. Too much can feel confrontational. The balance is key. And when you pair steady eye contact with a calm demeanor, you create an instant sense of trust. But silent elegance isn't only about posture and movement. It's also deeply connected to how you interact with others in our culture. People often think you have to speak the most, tell the best stories, or be the most charismatic person in the room to make an impression. The truth is, you can command more respect by listening with intention than by talking endlessly. When you give someone your full attention, nodding occasionally, asking thoughtful follow-up questions, and not interrupting, you make them feel valued. And when people feel valued in your presence, they naturally associate you with warmth and confidence. Elegance also comes from restraint, the ability to know when not to react in moments of conflict or discomfort. Most people rush to fill the silence, explain themselves, or match the other person's energy. Silent elegance means resisting that impulse. It's taking a breath before you respond. It's knowing that sometimes the most powerful statement is made without words. This doesn't mean being passive. It means being intentional. When you choose your words carefully, people start listening more closely because they know you don't waste them. Your personal style plays a role too, though not in the way most people think. Silent elegance in appearance isn't about expensive labels or following every trend. It's about refinement, clothes that fit well, colors that flatter you, and grooming that shows you care about the details. You don't have to draw attention with bold patterns or glittering accessories. In fact, minimalism often speaks louder. The Stoics would call this living in harmony with nature, choosing what serves your purpose, not what distracts from it, just as Marcus Aurelius advised against unnecessary luxury. Silent elegance in style is about wearing what enhances your presence, not overshadows it. There's also a psychological element to silent elegance that people don't talk about. Enough self-respect. You can't fake elegance if you don't respect yourself, because it will eventually show in the way you carry yourself. And here's where Stoic philosophy offers a deeper layer. They believe true beauty wasn't about the body at all, but about the soul. Your external elegance should be a reflection of your internal state. If you are constantly anxious, bitter, or judgmental, it will seep into your body language, no matter how polished your exterior is. On the other hand, if you cultivate gratitude, patience, and humility, those qualities will naturally express themselves through your movements, expressions, and tone. As Socrates said, the way to gain a good reputation is to endeavor to be what you desire to appear. Silent elegance also means being present, really present. It means when you're with someone, you're not half listening while planning your next move or scrolling through your phone. You're fully there, absorbing the moment. This is rare today, which is why it's so impactful. People are drawn to those who make them feel like they are the only person in the room. That's not something you can fake. It's a byproduct of slowing down and choosing to be mindful. Of course, all of this takes practice. The first step is awareness. Pay attention to how you enter a room, how you hold yourself, and how you respond to others. Ask yourself, am I rushing? Am I fidgeting? Am I speaking just to fill the space? Then little by little begin to make adjustments. Stand a little taller. Speak a little slower. Pause before you answer. Small changes compound over time, and soon they become your natural way of being. And remember, elegance isn't perfection. In fact, trying to appear perfect often destroys the very quality you're trying to cultivate. People connect with those who are graceful, yet human, confident, but approachable. The Japanese concept of wabi-sabi teaches that there is beauty in imperfection, and Stoic philosophy agrees your value is not diminished by flaws as long as you carry them with humility and composure in the end. Mastering silent elegance is less about learning to look elegant and more about learning to be elegant. It's about bringing your best self into every space, not to prove anything, but because it's who you are when you walk with intention. Listen with care and move through the world with calm self-assurance. You send a silent message that people can feel, even if they can't put it into words. And that's why silent elegance lasts. It doesn't depend on trends, money, or constant attention. It comes from you and it stays with you no matter where you go. 3. Subtle signature. Scent. There are moments in life when a memory clings to you, not because of what someone said, but because of how they made you feel. And sometimes that feeling comes from something as simple as their scent. You might not even notice it at first. It lingers subtly, a whisper in the air, attaching itself to a moment, a conversation, or an encounter. Then days or even years later, you catch that same fragrance somewhere else, and suddenly you're right back in that memory. That's the quiet power of a signature scent. It's not just perfume or cologne. It's a silent calling card, a part of your presence that speaks long after you've walked away. The beauty of a subtle signature scent lies in its restraint. Too much, and it overwhelms. Too little, and it disappears before it has a chance to leave an impression. The sweet spot is a fragrance that feels like an extension of who you are, clean, refined, and distinctively yours. This doesn't mean you have to spend a fortune on high-end brands. It means being intentional about the details, just as the Stoics believed in aligning your outer actions with your inner values. Your scent should align with the image and energy you want to project. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." I'd add that your present scent included becomes tinted with the quality of your choices. The fragrance you choose is one of those choices, a reflection of the care you take in presenting yourself to the world. But here's where many people misunderstand. Choosing a signature scent isn't about impressing others. It's about self-respect. It's about knowing that when you step into a room, every part of you, even the invisible parts, is in alignment. A well-maintained personal scent signals attention to detail. It shows that you're intentional, that you understand the little things aren't so little after all. Fragrance works on a deeper, almost primal level. Our sense of smell is directly connected to the brain's limbic system, the part that governs emotions and memory. That's why certain scents can instantly transport us back to a moment or a feeling. Epictetus once taught, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do if you want to be remembered as someone." Calm, refined, or energizing your scent can help anchor that impression in people's minds. When you choose it intentionally, it's no longer random. It becomes a silent signature of your character. Your signature scent doesn't have to be something obvious or heavily perfumed. In fact, some of the most attractive scents are barely noticeable blending. So naturally with you that people can't quite pinpoint what it is. They just know they want to be near it. Think fresh laundry, clean skin, subtle notes of wood, citrus, or spice. These kinds of fragrances invite people in without overpowering them. Seneca once wrote, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication that wisdom applies perfectly." Here, your scent should enhance, not distract. Of course, scent is only one part of the equation. It's a reflection of your overall personal care, which is where many people miss the mark. No fragrance can cover for poor hygiene, unwashed clothes, or neglecting the basics. A signature scent works best when it's the final touch on a foundation of cleanliness and grooming. It's like adding a subtle frame to a well-painted picture. It highlights what's already there, rather than trying to mask flaws. Socrates put it beautifully: be as you wish to seem. If you wish to seem elegant, disciplined, and composed, start by being those things in your daily habits. Your scent will simply echo them. Creating a signature scent for yourself is also an act of self-awareness. It requires you to ask, what feeling do I want to leave behind when I'm no longer in the room? Do I want to project warmth and comfort, freshness, and clarity, strength, and mystery? Once you identify that, you can find a scent that supports it. The Stoics often spoke of living in harmony with nature. And in this context, it means choosing something that feels authentic to your natural energy, not something that feels like you're wearing a mask. And remember, your scent isn't only about perfume or cologne, it's also in the soap you use, the detergent you wash your clothes with, even the subtle aroma of your hair. Products, all of these work together to create your overall presence. Think of them as different instruments in a symphony blending to create one distinct sound, or in this case, one distinct impression. Michel de Montaigne once said, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself." A signature scent is part of that belonging. It's choosing something that feels like home to you, so that when others encounter it, they're meeting the truest version of you. There's a psychological edge to all this too, when you know you smell good when you've taken the time to choose and apply your scent with care. You carry yourself differently. You move with more confidence, you interact with more ease, and you project a subtle assurance that people pick up on even if they can't articulate why. One of the most understated benefits of a signature scent is its ability to make your presence linger after you've left, not in a heavy, overpowering way, but in a gentle reminder, a faint trace that keeps you in someone's mind. That's powerful, because it's not about forcing them to remember you. It's about giving them a reason to. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus might frame it this way: leave behind not just a memory of your words or actions, but a feeling, an atmosphere, a trace of your essence that others can't quite shake. Now here's where the discipline comes in. A signature scent works because it's consistent. It's not something you change every week on a whim. Over time, people begin to associate it with you, and that consistency builds recognition. In a way, it's like a personal brand, something instantly familiar that signals, "I'm here." Seneca might call this living according to your principles, even in small things, because they reflect the larger structure of your life. To build this habit, start small, test different scents, and notice how you feel wearing them. Do they energize you, ground you, make you feel more at ease? Choose one that feels right, then stick with it. Make it a part of your routine. Apply it before important meetings, social events, or even just as part of your daily preparation. Over time, it will become second nature, and so will the confidence that comes with it. The truth is, the world remembers far less about what we say than about how we make people feel. A signature scent is one of those small, almost invisible tools that can shape that feeling in a powerful way. It's quiet, it's personal, and it's deeply human. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, what is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bees. Taking care of your own presence down to the finest details benefits not just you but everyone you interact with. It makes their experience of you richer, more memorable, and more pleasant. So the next time you think about how to make a lasting impression, remember this: your scent speaks long after you stop talking. It's not vanity, it's self-respect in its most subtle form. It's the invisible handshake, the quiet nod, the unspoken statement that you are a person who pays attention to the little things, and in a world that rushes past the details, that alone can make you unforgettable. 4. Be fully present. There's a rare kind of person you meet from time to time who makes you feel like the only human being in the world when you talk. They're not glancing at their phone, scanning the room, or waiting for their turn to speak. They're fully there with you in the moment, absorbing every word. And the strange thing is, you walk away from those conversations not just remembering what was said, but feeling deeply valued. That is the quiet magic of being fully present in a time when distraction is the norm. Presence has become one of the most magnetic and unforgettable qualities a person can have. Carl Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Presence is the catalyst for that transformation. It's the unspoken signal that says, "I see you. You matter." The truth is, presence isn't complicated, it's simple. But simple doesn't mean easy. We live in a culture that thrives on interruption, notifications, scrolling feeds, background noise, multitasking. It's all designed to pull us away from the moment we're in. Being present requires deliberate resistance to that pull. The Stoics knew this long before smartphones existed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present for him." That wasn't just advice. It was a way to cut through the noise of life. If you're truly focused on the here and now, you're not haunted by the past or consumed by what might happen in the future. You're anchored, and people can feel that anchor in you when you're fully present with someone. You're telling them without words that they're worth your time and your attention. Think about how rare that is today. Most of us have been in conversations where the other person is nodding politely while their eyes flick to the clock, or they're subtly swiping on their phone. You can sense it immediately, and it feels dismissive. It's the emotional equivalent of saying, "You're not that important, right?" Now, on the flip side, when someone gives you their undivided attention, you feel validated. You feel like your thoughts and feelings have weight. Seneca understood the power of this kind of focus when he said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Wasting our moments by splitting our attention robs not just us, but the people we care about. Presence isn't about perfection. It's about intention. It's not that you'll never get distracted. It's that you choose to return your focus to the person or task in front of you. And this doesn't apply only to conversations. Being present also means giving your full focus to whatever you're doing, whether that's cooking dinner, reading a book, or walking down the street. Our minds are like restless travelers, always jumping ahead to the next stop. But when you commit to noticing the details, the way the air smells, the expression on someone's face, the exact tone in their voice, you open yourself to a depth of experience that most people skip over. Entirely psychologically, presence has an immediate impact on connection. When you give someone your attention, you're not just hearing their words. You're picking up on their body language, their tone, and the emotions behind what they're saying. This makes you far more empathetic and responsive. Of course, presence also requires self-discipline. We are constantly tempted to think about what we'll say next, instead of actually listening to the person in front of us. But true presence means letting go of the need to control the conversation and simply allowing it to unfold. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." That's not just a guideline for politeness, it's a path to real influence. When people feel truly heard, they become more open, more trusting, and more willing to engage with you. One of the hidden benefits of presence is that it makes you memorable without you having to do anything flashy. You might not tell the funniest jokes or have the most captivating stories, but if you make someone feel like their words matter, they'll remember you. And the beauty of this is that presence is available to. Being fully present doesn't mean you lose yourself in others, though. It's not about erasing your thoughts or feelings. It's about balancing them with openness. Sometimes we listen only to respond, filtering everything through our own perspective. But presence means temporarily setting aside your agenda so you can step into someone else's world. Carl Jung described this as holding space for another person's reality, allowing both perspectives to coexist. This requires humility, the recognition that your view isn't the only one that matters in the moment. If you want to practice being more present, start small. The next time you talk to someone consciously, put away your phone, face them directly. Make steady, comfortable eye contact, not staring, but not darting away. Either nod when you're following along and ask questions that show you're engaged, and when your mind drifts, as it inevitably will, gently bring it back to the moment, without judgment. This is the same principle behind mindfulness, meditation, which the Stoics practiced in their own way. They didn't sit cross-legged with incense, but they did spend time each day reflecting, focusing, and anchoring themselves in the present. The rewards of presence go far beyond making others feel valued. It changes your own experience of life. When you're fully here, you notice things you've been overlooking. You find more joy in simple moments. Your relationships deepen because people trust you, and you start to feel calmer because you're not constantly juggling the past and future in your mind. It's worth mentioning that presence also makes you more persuasive and influential. When people feel heard by you, they're far more likely to listen to you in return. This is especially true in high-stakes conversations where emotions can run high. A calm, attentive presence can diffuse tension faster than any clever argument. It signals control, composure, and respect, qualities that are deeply attractive in both personal and professional settings. And unlike quick tricks to gain attention, Presence leaves a lasting impression that people trust at its core. Presence is about respect, both for yourself and for others. You respect yourself enough to show up fully, not half-engaged, and you respect others enough to give them your most valuable resource, your attention. So the next time you're in a conversation, ask yourself, am I really here, or am I somewhere else entirely? Am I giving this person the same focus I wish they'd give? Presence doesn't cost anything yet. It's one of the rarest gifts you can give, and in a world where most people are half living in their devices, being fully present isn't just a social skill, it's a superpower, because at the end of the day, people may forget your words. They may even forget your face, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And when you're present, truly present, how they feel is seen, heard, and valued. That's the kind of connection that leaves a mark, not for a moment, but for a lifetime. 5. Keep a touch of mystery. There's something captivating about a person you can't quite figure out. You notice the way they speak, how they listen, and the calm confidence in their presence. But you can sense there's more beneath the surface. They don't spill every detail of their life the moment you meet them. They're warm, approachable, yet there's a part of them that stays just out of reach. And that's what keeps you intrigued in a world where oversharing has become second nature, and every thought, meal, and opinion is broadcast for instant consumption. The ability to keep certain things to yourself has become rare and powerful. The truth is, we live in a time where privacy is almost treated like a weakness, as if keeping things to yourself means you're hiding something. But the Stoics would tell you that restraint is a virtue. Epictetus said, "Be silent for the most part, or speak only what is necessary." And in few words, this wasn't advice to be cold or distant. It was about valuing the weight of your words and the moments you choose to share. When you leave space for people to wonder, you invite them to pay closer attention. They lean in, they ask questions, they think about you after you've left the room, because you've given them just enough to make them curious without satisfying it entirely. Mystery isn't about manipulation. It's not about playing games or making people chase you out of frustration. It's about self-respect. It's knowing that not every part of you needs to be on display for public consumption. You can share your personality, your humor, your ideas without giving away every chapter of your story. In the first conversation, keeping a touch of mystery also makes your actions more impactful. When you speak less about your plans and goals, your results become your statement. There's an old piece of wisdom often echoed in philosophy: let your actions speak for themselves. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one in the same way. You don't need to tell the world what you're doing every step of the way. Simply do it when the outcome is visible. It carries far more weight than constant updates along the journey." Think about it in terms of storytelling. The most engaging books and films don't reveal everything in the first chapter. They give you pieces, a hint here, a foreshadowing there, so you're compelled to keep going. You too are telling a story through how you live and interact. If you hand someone the entire plot immediately, there's nothing left for them to discover. But if you allow them to experience your depth gradually, each new layer becomes a moment of intrigue. As the philosopher Blaise Pascal once wrote, "We are generally better persuaded by the reasons we discover ourselves than by those given to us by others." When people uncover things about you in their own time, they feel more invested in knowing you. This doesn't mean you become secretive to the point of isolation. Mystery isn't about shutting people out. It's about setting boundaries for what you choose to share, and with whom there's a quiet strength in being able to hold something just for yourself. In a sense, you're protecting the sacredness of certain parts of your life. The Stoics called this living in accordance with nature, not giving everything away to the winds of public opinion, but keeping your inner life rooted and untouched. Social media has blurred these lines for many people. It's easy to believe that the more you post, the more real or authentic you seem. But authenticity doesn't mean oversharing. It means being genuine in what you do. Share while keeping some things just for you. Michel de Montaigne put it well when he said, "We can be knowledgeable with other men's knowledge, but we cannot be wise with other men's wisdom." Wisdom, your personal experiences, thoughts, and feelings, doesn't have to be on display at all times for it to be real. In fact, sometimes it grows Stronger in silence, one of the unexpected benefits of maintaining mystery is that it builds respect when you're not constantly explaining yourself. You signal confidence. You're saying, I don't need everyone to understand me for me to be okay with who I am. This is a quality people admire, even if they don't consciously articulate it. Mystery also gives you control over your narrative. When you reveal information slowly and intentionally, you shape the way others experience you. You can allow people to see your humor before they see your ambition. You can let them experience your kindness before they learn about your struggles. This isn't deception, it's pacing. It's choosing to let people earn their way into the deeper parts of your story, which not only protects you, but also makes those deeper connections more meaningful when they happen. There's another reason why a touch of mystery works so well. It mirrors life itself. We are naturally drawn to what we don't fully understand. Our minds crave completion. So when something feels unfinished, we keep returning to it. The ancient Greeks understood this in their concept of aporia, the state of puzzlement that compels deeper thought and inquiry by not giving everything away. You leave open spaces for people to explore, and in exploring they often discover not just more about you, but more about themselves. If you want to cultivate mystery in your own life, start by observing your patterns. Do you feel the urge to explain? Every choice you make to post every experience in real time to give people every detail when they ask a simple question. Instead, try practicing restraint. The next time someone asks what you're working on, give a concise answer without the full backstory. When something good happens, enjoy it privately for a while before you share it. The point isn't to be evasive, it's to be intentional in personal relationships. Mystery adds depth. It keeps interactions fresh because there's always more to learn, more to uncover. Even in long-term friendships or romantic relationships, holding on to certain personal practices, hobbies, or private reflections can keep the connection alive. It allows both people to continue discovering each other over time, just as a great conversation leaves you wanting to keep talking. A person with mystery leaves you wanting to keep knowing. But here's the important part. Mystery should never be used as a mask for dishonesty. If you withhold information to manipulate, the intrigue turns into mistrust. True mystery works because it's rooted in authenticity. You're not hiding who you are. You're simply not broadcasting every detail. It's a conscious choice to let your story unfold gradually with care. In the end, keeping a touch of mystery is really about knowing the value of your own life and experiences. Not everyone has earned the right to know everything about you, and that's okay. It's about preserving the richness of your inner world so that it doesn't get diluted by overexposure. As Seneca wisely said, it is the power of the mind to be unconquerable. Part of that power comes from knowing when to speak and when to let silence do the work. So stop feeling like you owe the world a running commentary of your life. Let people wonder. Let them ask. Let them be drawn to the spaces you choose not to fill in a noisy world. Mystery is a kind of quiet music, and the less you reveal, the more they lean in to listen. 6. Develop cultural wisdom. Every once in a while, you meet someone who can hold a conversation about almost anything. Art, history, philosophy, the latest discoveries in science, or even traditions from halfway across the world. They don't speak to show off. They're not trying to dominate the discussion. They simply have a depth to them, a richness in their perspective that makes talking to them feel like opening a door to a much bigger world. You walk away from that conversation feeling like you've gained something, maybe a new idea, a new way of looking at things, or even a challenge to what you thought you already knew. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." Developing cultural wisdom is about doing both, looking inward to understand yourself and outward to understand the vastness of the human experience. The truth is, many people stay in their own small bubble. They talk about the same topics with the same people in the same ways. There's nothing wrong with familiarity, but the danger is becoming narrow-minded without realizing it. The Stoics understood the importance of widening one's view. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. When you expose yourself to different cultures, different philosophies, and different ways of living, your thoughts expand, and so does your life. You begin to see that your way isn't the only way, and that realization alone makes you more adaptable, more understanding, and far more interesting to be around. Cultural wisdom starts with curiosity, not the shallow curiosity of wanting a quick fact to impress someone, but the deeper curiosity of wanting to understand why people live, think, and believe the way they do. It means reading books that challenge your perspective, watching documentaries about places you've never been, and having conversations with people whose backgrounds are different from yours. It's about asking thoughtful questions and actually listening to the answers. Seneca once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak." This advice applies perfectly here. Developing cultural wisdom is as much about listening and observing as it is about speaking. When you cultivate this kind of knowledge, you bring more to the table in every interaction. You can talk about more than just the weather or the headlines of the day. You can draw parallels between ancient philosophies and modern dilemmas. You can share stories about cultural traditions that most people have never heard of, not to impress, but to inspire curiosity in others. And here's the thing, when you do this without arrogance, without trying to one-up anyone, people are drawn to you. They feel enriched by the conversation, not diminished. One of the most underrated aspects of cultural wisdom is empathy. The more you understand about how other people live, the easier it becomes to step into their shoes. You start to see the reasoning behind actions that once puzzled you, and you realize that different doesn't mean wrong. This shift in thinking can change not only your conversations but your relationships. Epictetus reminded, "Us men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them." Cultural wisdom helps you refine that view. It allows you to see beyond the surface and approach people with compassion instead of judgment. Of course, developing cultural wisdom doesn't happen overnight. It's built one small choice at a time, choosing to read instead of scrolling, asking someone about their hometown instead of making assumptions, trying a dish from a cuisine you've never tasted before, attending a festival that celebrates a culture other than your own. Each of these experiences adds another thread to the tapestry of your understanding, and over time, those threads weave into something beautiful, an outlook on life that's wide, inclusive, and rich with perspective. Cultural wisdom also strengthens your ability to adapt. Life will inevitably place you in situations where the people around you think differently, act differently, and see the world differently than you do. Without cultural awareness, those situations can feel uncomfortable or even threatening, but with it they become opportunities for growth. You learn how to navigate conversations with tact, how to respect boundaries, and how to find common ground, even in disagreement. This adaptability is a quiet but powerful form of social intelligence. It's what makes certain people able to walk into any room and connect with almost anyone. Jung often spoke about individuation, the process of becoming your true self. Part of that process is understanding where you fit in the larger human story. By learning about other cultures, you start to see yourself more clearly. You recognize which parts of you are universal and which are shaped by your environment. You begin to separate your identity from your conditioning, which gives you more freedom to grow. And let's be honest, curiosity is magnetic. People want to be around those who are genuinely interested in the world. It makes them feel like you might also be genuinely interested in them. The energy you bring into a conversation when you're curious is different. It's lighter, more open, more engaging. You're not just waiting for your turn to talk. You're exploring the topic together. That's when real connection happens. It's worth mentioning that developing cultural wisdom also keeps your mind sharp. When you expose yourself to new ideas, you're essentially exercising your brain. You're making connections between seemingly unrelated concepts, and that kind of mental flexibility has benefits far beyond social situations. It can help you solve problems more creatively, approach challenges from new angles, and even find meaning in unexpected places. As Marcus Aurelius advised, look beneath the surface, let not the several quality of a thing, nor its worth, escape you. The habit of looking deeper is the essence of wisdom, cultural or otherwise. So how do you start? Begin by expanding your inputs. If you only read one genre, branch out. If you only watch shows in your own language, try foreign films, Talk to people. You normally wouldn't ask open-ended questions and be okay with not knowing the answer right away. And most importantly, resist the urge to immediately judge what's different from you, as Socrates said. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. That mindset keeps you open, keeps you learning, and keeps you humble. Another key part of cultural wisdom is sharing it generously. When you learn something fascinating about another culture, bring it on to your conversations in a way that invites curiosity, not comparison. You're not lecturing, you're exchanging. When someone shares something about their background with you, show genuine appreciation. That moment of respect can go a long way in building trust and connection. Over time, you'll notice a shift. Conversations will feel richer. You'll have more to contribute without dominating the discussion. You'll start to see patterns in human behavior that transcend borders and languages. And perhaps most importantly, you'll begin to appreciate both the diversity and the unity of the human experience. This is what the Stoics meant when they spoke of being a citizen of the world, a cosmopolitan. Your loyalty is not just to your own little corner, but to the shared humanity that connects us all. In the end, cultural wisdom isn't about collecting trivia or trying to impress people with your knowledge. It's about living with a wider lens, seeing more, understanding more, and connecting more deeply. It's about stepping out of your bubble and realizing the world is far bigger and more beautiful than you imagined. And when you carry that awareness with humility and warmth, you don't just stand out. You draw people in, because you're not only someone who knows things, you're someone who cares enough to keep learning. And in a world full of noise, that kind of curiosity is unforgettable. 7. Lead with compassion. Some people walk into a room and bring a certain kind of peace with them. It's not in what they say first, or even in how they look. It's in the way they make you feel when you're around them. You feel heard, you feel understood, you feel like you can breathe a little easier. That's the quiet power of compassion. It's a strength that doesn't shout for attention, but it changes the atmosphere wherever it goes. Carl Jung once said, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Compassion begins there, by understanding your own struggles, so you can meet others with empathy instead of judgment. We live in a world where kindness often feels transactional. People help because they expect something in return, credit, praise, or a favor owed. But genuine compassion is different. It's not about getting something back. It's about showing up for someone because you value them as a fellow human being. The Stoics saw this as a duty. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Men exist for the sake of one another. Teach them then, or bear with them." Compassion is part of our responsibility to each other, not a bonus we give when it's convenient. The thing about compassion is that it requires presence. You can't be compassionate if you're half listening or already thinking about what you're going to say next. You have to slow down, give someone your full attention, and let them know you're actually with them in the moment. This doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they say or solve all their problems. Often the most compassionate thing you can do is simply to listen without judgment. Seneca once said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." You don't have to wait for a big moment to practice it. Everyday conversations offer the chance. Compassion is often mistaken for weakness, but in reality, it's a sign of deep strength. It takes courage to open yourself to another person's pain without letting it harden you. It's easier to keep your distance to protect yourself by staying indifferent. But indifference doesn't connect, and it doesn't inspire trust. True compassion means you can sit with someone in their struggle, offer support, and still maintain your own stability. Epictetus put it well, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest. As it happens, you can't control what someone else is going through, but you can control how you respond to it. One of the most powerful aspects of compassion is that it's remembered long after the moment has passed. People might forget your exact words, but they'll remember the feeling of being respected, valued, and understood. This is why compassion builds influence, not the loud kind, but the kind that makes people want to be around you because they feel safe in your presence. To lead with compassion, you have to let go of keeping score. If your kindness is conditional, it's not compassion. It's a trade help, because you cannot, because you expect repayment. If someone thanks you, appreciate it. If they don't, move on. The Stoics would remind us that the reward for virtue is virtue itself. Acting with compassion shapes your character. whether or not anyone notices. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Doing what is right, even quietly, is its own form of leadership. Compassion also requires boundaries. It doesn't mean sacrificing your well-being to help everyone else. If you drain yourself completely, you won't be able to show up for anyone, not even yourself. This is where self-awareness comes in. Jung believed that facing your own inner challenges gives you the perspective to understand others without being consumed by their struggles. You can care deeply while still protecting your own energy. That balance is what keeps compassion strong instead of burning it out. There's also a practical side to compassion. It's not only about being there for friends or family. It applies in every part of life. At work, compassion helps you navigate conflicts without unnecessary hostility and leadership. It makes people more willing to follow you because they know you care about their well-being in relationships. It deepens trust and creates a foundation of mutual respect. Epictetus taught, "No great thing is created suddenly." Compassion works the same way. It's built through consistent, small actions, not grand gestures. If you want to develop compassion, start with patience. The next time someone frustrates you, pause before reacting. Ask yourself what might be happening in their life that you can't see. This doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it shifts your perspective. When you approach people with curiosity instead of instant judgment, you open the door to understanding. Michel de Montaigne once said, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself." When you're secure in who you are, you don't feel threatened by offering others empathy. Compassion also grows when you make a habit of small, intentional acts of kindness. Hold the door open. Send a message to check in on someone without any agenda. Offer a genuine compliment. These moments might seem insignificant, but over time they shape the way people experience you. More importantly, they shape the way you experience the world. You start to see opportunities to contribute positively, and that outlook becomes part of your identity. Leading with compassion doesn't mean you avoid difficult conversations. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is tell someone a hard truth. But with empathy and respect, it's the difference between criticizing to tear down and guiding to build up. When you make compassion a core part of how you move through the world, you'll notice it changes the way people respond to you. You might find that doors open more easily, conversations flow more naturally, and relationships feel less strained. People gravitate toward those who make them feel valued, and compassion is one of the most reliable ways to create that feeling. And just as importantly, it changes how you see yourself. You begin to take pride not in how much you've gained, but in how much you've given, without expecting anything in return. The Stoics would say that the measure of a good life isn't in possessions or recognition, but in the quality of your character, and compassion is a key piece of that quality. It's a daily practice, a choice you make again and again to meet others with understanding instead of indifference. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, when you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. To love, in this sense, is not just romance. It's the decision to act with kindness toward the world around you. So lead with compassion, even when it's not returned, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one is watching, because the strength it builds in you and the light it brings to others is worth more than any recognition you could receive in a world that often rewards hardness. Choose to be the person who softens the edges without losing their shape. People may forget many things about you, but they will never forget how you made them feel, and that is a kind of leadership that never fades. 8. Radiate, joy, and humor. There's something magnetic about a person who can walk into a room and instantly lift the energy, not by demanding attention, but by bringing a sense of ease with them. You know the type. They have this calm, warm presence that makes you feel lighter. Just being near them, they can laugh at themselves without a hint of insecurity. And they know how to find moments of light even when life is far from perfect. It's not forced. It's not the exhausting, always-on kind of cheerfulness. That feels fake. It's a grounded joy, one that radiates quietly but powerfully. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Joy often begins there with acceptance. When you're comfortable with yourself, you stop performing for the world, and your light starts to shine in a way that feels effortless. The truth is, joy is a kind of discipline. People think it just happens to certain personalities, but in reality, it's something you cultivate. It's the daily decision to notice beauty, to focus on gratitude, and to not let challenges consume you completely. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. To radiate joy, you have to feed your mind with thoughts that keep you steady, not those that constantly pull you into negativity." It doesn't mean ignoring pain. It means choosing not to live there longer than you need to. Humor is one of joy's most powerful companions. But here's the key: true humor isn't about being the loudest person in the room or trying to make people laugh at every sentence. It's about knowing when to ease the tension, when to offer a playful observation, and when to poke fun at yourself in a way that makes others feel safe to do the same. There's also a certain bravery and joy in humor. It's easy to get caught up in seriousness, to let the weight of responsibilities and bad news keep you in a constant state of tension. Laughing in those moments can feel almost rebellious, as if you're saying, "Life doesn't get to crush me today." Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Choosing humor is a reaction that refuses to let you of your spirit. It's not denial, it's resilience. Radiating joy doesn't mean pretending everything is okay. When it's not, people can sense false cheer, and it's exhausting to be around. What's magnetic is when someone acknowledges that things might be difficult, but they can still find something to smile about. This kind of joy is rooted in perspective. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Humor often comes from stepping outside of the situation long enough to see its absurdity. Once you do, it becomes easier to laugh, and that laughter has a way of making the problem feel smaller. The beautiful thing about joy is that it's contagious. The energy you bring into a room either lifts others or drags them down. We've all felt it: the relief when someone walks in with lightness, or the heaviness when someone enters with nothing but complaints. When you radiate joy, people want to be near you, not because you're perfect, but because you make the space around you feel better. That's influence without force humor. Especially self-deprecating humor can also be a bridge between people. When you can laugh at your own mistakes without spiraling into shame, you show others that it's safe to be human around you. This creates connection faster than any perfectly curated image ever could. Jung talked about the importance of integrating the shadow, the parts of ourselves we'd rather hide. Humor is one of the most graceful ways to bring those shadows into the light, turning potential embarrassment into shared laughter. Of course, joy and humor require presence. You can't find the funny moment if you're always 2 steps ahead in your head, worrying about the future or replaying the past. You have to be here, noticing the little details. A raised eyebrow in a meeting, the way someone mispronounces a word, or the irony of a situation. These are the raw materials for humor and joy, but you only catch them if you're paying attention. Another important thing to remember is that joy isn't about constant high energy. Sometimes it's quiet, like a peaceful smile in the middle of a hectic day, or the warmth in your voice when you greet someone stoic. Joy isn't about hype. It's about a steady flame that doesn't go out. When the wind picks up, you can still feel the full range of emotions: anger, sadness, frustration, but you return to joy as your baseline. That's what makes it powerful. If you want to cultivate this energy, start small. Practice gratitude. Daily notice 3 things that make you smile every morning. Seek out humor intentionally. Watch a funny movie, read a witty author, or spend time with people who make you laugh without effort. And just as importantly, be that person for others. Offer a light remark in tense moments, share an amusing story, or simply laugh with someone instead of at them. Emerson once said to laugh often and much to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children. This is to have succeeded. Joy is part of that success. It's worth noting that humor can be incredibly healing. Laughter releases tension in the body, lowers stress hormones, and even strengthens the immune system. But on a social level, it does something deeper. It creates bonds. When you share a genuine laugh with someone, you create a shared memory, a tiny moment of unity that says, "We're in this together." Those moments accumulate, and before you know it, your relationships feel stronger, your environment lighter, and your own heart a little less heavy. There's also an element of leadership in joy. People look to those who can hold steady in difficult times, and joy is a form of steadiness. It's a message that says we can handle this and we can still enjoy life. While we do, leaders who use humor effectively tend to build more trust and loyalty because they make challenges feel more manageable. They're not dismissing the problem. They're reminding everyone that the problem doesn't define them, ultimately radiating. Joy and humor is about making a choice every day. It's about deciding to bring light instead of darkness, to lift instead of weigh down, to connect instead of isolate. It's not about ignoring reality, it's about refusing to let reality steal your ability to enjoy life. As Epictetus would remind us, we can't control everything that happens, but we can always control the energy we bring to it. So laugh at yourself when you spill your coffee. Smile at the stranger in the elevator. Share the ridiculous story about the time you made a complete fool of yourself. Let people see that you can find joy in the ordinary and humor in the chaos. Because the truth is, the world needs more people who can carry joy like a lantern, steady, warm, and bright enough to make the path a little lighter for everyone around them. And when you become that person, you'll find that people don't just enjoy your company. They're drawn to it. They want that light in their lives. And that's a kind of presence that speaks louder than any words ever could. 9. Prioritize self-care. There's a certain kind of presence that you can't fake. It's in the way a person moves, in the quiet energy they carry, and how they speak. Without rushing their words, you notice they seem grounded, balanced in a way that isn't about showing off, but about having a calm confidence that radiates from the inside out. That presence doesn't come from luck or genetics. It comes from something deeper. The consistent choice to take care of themselves day after day. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists when you neglect your own needs." The effects show up: tiredness, irritability, a lack of clarity. And those signs don't just fade away. They build until you can't ignore them anymore. Self-care is the practice of facing those needs before they become crises. The problem is self-care has been watered down into an image of bubble baths and face masks. There's nothing wrong with those things, but they're just the surface. Real self-care is far less glamorous, but infinitely more powerful. It's choosing the foods that fuel you instead of the ones that leave you sluggish. It's getting enough sleep, even when it means saying no to something you'd enjoy in the short term. It's staying active, not to chase an unrealistic image, but because you want your body to support you for years to come. And it's protecting your mental health with the same urgency you'd protect your physical safety. Self-care is also about discipline, not the harsh, punishing kind that drains you, but the steady, self-respecting kind that says, "I matter enough to show up for myself today." Seneca put it plainly: a man cannot be comfortable without his own approval. If you're constantly breaking promises to yourself, skipping workouts, staying up too late, neglecting your mental space, you slowly eroded your own trust. But when you follow through on the commitments you make to yourself, even in small ways, you build self-respect brick by brick, and that respect changes the way you carry yourself. There's an undeniable attractiveness to someone who clearly takes care of themselves. It's not about perfection. It's about signaling that you value your life enough to nurture it. People pick up on that energy. Often subconsciously, they see someone with clear eyes, steady posture, and a kind of calm alertness, and they think this is someone who's got their life in order. You don't have to say it. They can see it. But let's be honest, self-care isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it's choosing to meal prep instead of ordering takeout. Sometimes it's getting up early to exercise when you'd rather stay in bed. Sometimes it's saying no to people you care about because you know you need time to rest. These aren't the moments you post about, but they're the ones that matter most. Mental self-care is just as important as the physical side. This means knowing when your mind is overloaded and taking steps to clear it. It might mean journaling to get your thoughts out, meditating to steady your breathing, or simply spending time in nature to reset. Jung believed that who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Turning inward isn't selfish. It's essential. If you never pause to check in with yourself, you risk running on autopilot, missing the signs that something needs to change. There's also a social element to self-care, choosing the people you surround yourself with. If you spend your time with those who drain your energy or constantly pull you into drama, you're undermining your own well-being. Protecting your boundaries isn't cold. It's an act of respect for yourself and your future, as the Stoics would say. Your time and attention are the most precious things you have. Spend them wisely. One of the most overlooked parts of self-care is rest in a culture obsessed with productivity. Rest is often treated like a weakness, but the Stoics saw it differently. They valued periods of stillness as much as action. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to step back to breathe, to remember his place in the larger flow of life. Rest isn't about doing nothing. It's about restoring the mind and body so you can do everything else with focus and clarity that sustains you, one that you can keep for the long term. This rhythm will look different for everyone. For some, it's waking up early to meditate and exercise. For others, it's protecting slow evenings to read, cook, or connect with loved ones. What matters is that it's intentional. Self-care also extends to the way you speak to yourself. The words you use internally can either fuel you or drain you. If you constantly criticize yourself, no amount of external care will undo the damage. Compassion toward yourself isn't weakness. It's what allows you to keep growing without becoming bitter. Montaigne said, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself. When you treat yourself as someone worth belonging to, everything changes." The beauty of prioritizing self-care is that it has a ripple effect. When you take care of yourself, you show up better for others. You have more patience, more energy, and more focus. You can offer help without resenting it because you're not running on empty. This is why self-care is not selfish. It's the foundation for everything you give to the world. The Stoics believed in living a life of virtue, and that requires a sound mind and a sound body. Without care for yourself, your ability to live, that virtue is compromised. Start where you are. Don't wait for the perfect time to overhaul your life. Begin with small, consistent steps. A short walk every day. A better bedtime routine. A few minutes of stillness in the morning. Each act reinforces the message, I matter enough to do this. And as those acts accumulate, you'll notice shifts in your mood, your energy, your resilience over time. Self-care becomes less about specific actions and more about identity. You stop thinking of it as a checklist and start seeing it as part of who you are. You're someone who eats to fuel your body, who rests to restore your mind, who moves to stay strong, who protects their boundaries because they value their peace. That's not just attractive, it's powerful. And the truth is, people can feel it. They can sense when you're operating from a place of strength and balance. They see the difference in how you handle challenges, in how you carry yourself, in how you interact with the world. Prioritizing self-care doesn't make life perfect, but it gives you the strength to meet life as it is with clarity, discipline, and calm. In the end, self-care is a choice you make over and over. It's not something you do once and forget. It's a way of living. It's the daily commitment to treat yourself like someone worth investing in. And when you do that, you not only change how you feel, you change how the world experiences you. As the Stoics might say, you become the kind of person who lives in harmony with themselves, and that harmony is something everyone around you can see. 10. Build emotional intelligence. Some people seem to have a natural ability to navigate any social situation. They can walk into a tense room and instantly sense what's going on beneath the surface. They know when to stay quiet, when to ask the right question, and when to step in with something meaningful to say. They make people feel understood without even trying. This isn't luck. It's a skill, and that skill is called emotional intelligence. At its core, emotional intelligence is about awareness. Awareness of yourself, awareness of others, and awareness of the environment you're in. The Stoics understood this long before the term existed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change for I seek the truth by which no one was ever truly harmed. This is emotional intelligence in action, the humility to be corrected without defensiveness, and the ability to adapt without losing yourself. The first part of building emotional intelligence is self-awareness. You need to understand your own emotional patterns, what triggers you, what calms you, and how your moods influence your behavior. Without this, you'll constantly be at the mercy of your reactions. Seneca said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." If you can pause long enough to question your initial emotional response, you create space between feeling and action. In that space, you gain control. The second part is self-regulation. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions or pretending you don't feel them. It means knowing how to manage them so they serve you, not sabotage you. Think about the difference between reacting and responding. A reaction is immediate. Fueled by raw emotion, a response is deliberate, guided by thought. Next comes empathy, the ability to understand what others are feeling even if they don't say it outright. This is where reading the room comes in. You notice subtle shifts in tone, body language, and energy. You pay attention to what's not being said. Empathy isn't about agreeing with everything or feeling what someone else feels. It's about acknowledging their experience without judgment. When people sense that you get them, they open up. They share more honestly, they trust you. This trust is one of the most valuable forms of influence you can have. Another element of emotional intelligence is social awareness, the ability to sense the dynamics of a group and adapt to them. This means knowing when it's your turn to contribute and when it's best to hold back. It means recognizing when a joke will land and when it will offend. It means noticing when someone is being left out of the conversation and inviting them. Michel de Montaigne once said, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself." Social awareness begins with that self-belonging. When you're secure in yourself, you can focus more on the needs and cues of others' relationship. Management is where all these skills come together. Once you can understand yourself, regulate your emotions, empathize with others, and read the social environment, you can guide interactions toward positive outcomes. This is not manipulation, it's leadership. It's the ability to bring calm to tense situations, resolve conflicts without unnecessary damage, and help people feel valued, even when you disagree with them. Marcus Aurelius advised, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy in moments of conflict." Emotional intelligence gives you the strength to rise above petty reactions and choose responses that serve the bigger picture. Building emotional intelligence takes practice, and it starts with slowing down instead of rushing to speak. Take a breath instead of assuming you know what someone means. Ask. Instead of matching someone's anger with your own, lower your voice and steady your tone. These small adjustments compound over time, transforming the way people experience you. One of the most underrated parts of emotional intelligence is curiosity. When you approach people and situations with the intent to understand, rather than to judge, you naturally become more attuned to the emotional undercurrents around you. This skill doesn't just make you more likable, it makes you more effective in every area of life. In business, emotional intelligence helps you negotiate better, lead teams more effectively, and build strong professional relationships in friendships and family life. It helps you avoid unnecessary conflicts and deepen your connections in your personal growth. It keeps you from being controlled by fleeting emotions, allowing you to act from your values instead of your impulses. The payoff of building emotional intelligence is huge. People will start to see you as someone they can rely on, not because you're always cheerful or agreeable, but because you're steady. You don't add chaos to the room, you bring balance. You're not unpredictable, you're grounded. And in a world where so many are quick to react and slow to think, that calm, thoughtful presence is rare and deeply attractive. If you want to start developing this skill, begin with 3 simple practices. First, pause before you respond, especially in moments of stress. Second, pay attention to the emotions of others without making it about you. Third, reflect daily on your own emotional patterns, what triggered you, what you handled well, and what you could improve next time. Over time, these habits will sharpen your awareness and control, making emotional intelligence a natural part of how you operate. 11. Be consistent and reliable. It's easy to make promises. Words cost nothing. You can agree to meet someone, commit to a project, or promise to help. And in that moment it feels effortless, but follow through. That's where the real weight lies. The truth is consistency and reliability are rare. Today, plans are canceled with a quick text. Promises are forgotten when something more convenient comes along. And yet, when you find someone who shows up exactly when they said they would, who does exactly what they promised, no matter how small, it leaves an impression that lasts. Carl Jung once said, "You are what you do not. What you say you'll do." Reliability turns your words into proof without it. Your words are just noise. Being reliable is not just about keeping appointments or meeting deadlines. It's about becoming the kind of person others know they can count on in both the big and small things. You follow through even when it's inconvenient. Seneca once said, "A promise must never be broken." That doesn't mean life won't throw obstacles in your way. Of course it will. But consistency is measured in how you handle those moments. Do you make excuses or do you find a way to keep your word? Reliability builds trust faster than almost anything else. Trust is not formed in a single grand gesture. It's formed in the small repetitive acts that prove your dependability over time. Think about the people you trust. Most chances are they've shown up for you again and again. Not just when it was easy, but when it was difficult. That's the foundation of deep relationships. Consistency also signals discipline. It shows you're capable of making a decision and sticking with it. Even when your mood changes or the initial excitement fades, most people skip the second part. They set goals, make plans, but abandon them at the first sign of discomfort. The reliable person pushes through. They understand that commitment means staying the course, not just when it's inspiring, but when it's mundane. But let's be honest, being consistent isn't always exciting. It can be repetitive, even boring. That's why so few people do it. We crave novelty, the thrill of starting something new, but there's a unique satisfaction that comes from finishing what you start. Consistency is not perfection. It doesn't mean you never miss a commitment or make a mistake. It means you own up to it. When you do, you communicate, you adjust, and you do everything possible to make it right. This honesty not only preserves trust, it strengthens it. People know you're not hiding behind excuses. They see you taking responsibility, and that sets you apart in a culture where deflection and blame shifting are common. Reliability also extends beyond others. It starts with the commitments you make to yourself. If you can't keep your own promises, it's only a matter of time before you start breaking them with others. Self-trust is the root of all trust. Montaigne once said, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself." When you consistently do what you tell yourself you'll do, whether it's sticking to a workout, saving money, or finishing a project, you strengthen your identity. You start seeing yourself as capable, disciplined, and trustworthy in the workplace. Consistency is often the difference between someone who is merely competent and someone who is indispensable. A reliable colleague doesn't just meet deadlines. They meet them without needing to be chased. They don't require constant supervision, because their results speak for themselves over time. They become the person others turn to when something truly matters. That kind of reputation is priceless. It can't be built overnight, but it can be destroyed quickly if you break your word. Reliability also creates stability in relationships when people know they can count on you. They feel safe. Safe to open up, safe to rely on you, safe to plan with you. It doesn't matter if it's a friendship, a romantic relationship, or a professional partnership. Trust is the glue that holds it together, and consistency is what keeps that glue from drying out. There's also a quiet confidence that comes from being reliable. You don't have to overcompensate with grand gestures or constant reassurance because your actions have already built your credibility. People know you'll be there, and that knowledge is powerful. It makes you someone they trust with responsibility, someone they respect without hesitation. Of course, reliability comes with boundaries. You can't be reliable for others if you overcommit and burn yourself out. Part of consistency is knowing your limits and being honest about what you can take on. The Stoics valued moderation. For this reason, it's better to do fewer things with excellence than to scatter yourself across too many commitments and fail to deliver. If you want to strengthen your reliability, start with small commitments. Show up on time, respond, When you say you will deliver on simple promises, like returning a borrowed item or following through on a casual plan, these small acts create a pattern, and patterns become reputation. Once people see that you can be trusted in the small things, they'll trust you with bigger responsibilities in a world where flakiness has become normal. Reliability is a quiet superpower. It doesn't make the loudest noise, but it leaves the deepest impression. People remember the ones who showed up not just once, but every time. In the end, being consistent and reliable is about integrity. It's about creating a life where your word is enough, because history has shown it to be true. And in a time when trust is fragile, that kind of dependability is not only rare, it's invaluable. When you choose to live this way, you stop being just another voice in the crowd. You become the person people can build on, the one they know will be there no matter what. And that's a legacy worth leaving. 12. Speak less, mean more. Some people can speak for 10 minutes and leave you with nothing to remember. Others can speak for 30 seconds and change the way you think about life. The difference isn't vocabulary or volume, it's intention. It's knowing that words carry weight and choosing to use them with care. We live in a world where talking has become cheap. Every second, thousands of conversations happen online and offline, most of them filled with noise. But noise is not meaning. The ability to speak less but say more is a rare skill, and it's one that commands attention without ever asking for it. Speaking less doesn't mean being detached or cold. It means being thoughtful. It means not rushing to respond the moment someone finishes speaking. It's pausing, considering the weight of your words, and then delivering something that actually contributes to the conversation. One of the biggest mistakes people make is talking just to prove they know something. They over-explain, they repeat themselves, or they offer advice before it's even been asked. For true authority doesn't need constant proof. It's shown in action and reinforced through well-timed words. Silence, when used intentionally, can be a form of communication all on its own in tense moments. It can signal strength in deep conversations. It can create space for others to open up in negotiations. It can apply subtle pressure. People often rush to fill silence because they mistake it for weakness. But in reality, it's a kind of discipline. It says I'm comfortable enough in myself that I don't need to fill every gap. Speaking less forces you to listen more, and listening deeply is one of the most underrated forms of influence. When you actually hear what people are saying, not just the words but the meaning behind them, you can respond in a way that resonates. Another reason to speak less is clarity. When you strip away the unnecessary details and get to the heart of what you're saying, your message becomes stronger. Think of it like writing. Cutting out extra words doesn't make the piece weaker. It makes it sharper. People remember clean, concise messages far longer than they remember rambling explanations. This is why leaders, thinkers, and philosophers throughout history have used brevity to their advantage. They didn't just say something. They said it in a way that could be remembered and repeated. There's also a psychological effect at play. When you speak sparingly, you create a sense of mystery. People begin to wonder what you're thinking, what you'll say next, or what you've chosen not to say. That curiosity works in your favor. Speaking less also reduces the chances of speaking in anger or saying something you'll regret. Emotional discipline is a huge part of this skill. When you pause before responding, especially in moments of conflict, you give yourself time to choose a measured, thoughtful reply instead of an impulsive one. It's worth noting that speaking less is not about withholding information that matters. It's about cutting away the excess, so the important things stand out in relationships. This might mean saying fewer but more meaningful compliments, so that each one feels genuine. In business, it might mean giving clear, direct instructions instead of overcomplicating them. In friendships, it might mean knowing when someone just needs your presence, not your advice. If you want to practice speaking less but meaning more, start with intentional pauses when someone finishes speaking. Wait a beat before you reply. In that pause, think, will what I'm about to say move the conversation forward? Is it necessary? Is it true? This aligns with the Stoic principle of living with intention. Speaking is an action, and like all actions, it should be deliberate. You can also train yourself by observing people who already embody this. Notice how the most respected figures in a room rarely speak the most. They're selective, and when they do speak, their words carry weight. This isn't an accident. It's a skill they've cultivated. They've learned that words are like currency. The more you flood the market, the less each one is worth over time. They'll come to you when they need clarity, perspective, or truth, not just noise. And perhaps most importantly, speaking less shifts your focus from trying to impress to trying to connect. It's not about delivering a performance, it's about delivering meaning, and meaning often lives in the spaces between words, in the pauses, in the silences that invite others to think and feel before the next sentence arrives. The Stoics would say that mastery of speech is mastery of self. To speak less and mean more is to live in alignment with the values of wisdom, discipline, and purpose. Epictetus reminded us nature gave us one tongue and two ears so we could listen twice as much as we speak. That ratio is worth keeping in mind, because when you live by it, you'll find your conversations deepen, your relationships strengthen, and your influence grows, not by saying more, but by making every word count. In the end, silence is not emptiness, it's space. And in that space, meaning can breathe. When you speak less and mean more, you stop wasting words and start crafting them into something. People remember, sometimes silence isn't just the flex. It's the foundation that makes every word you do speak feel like it matters. 13. Dress with intent. There's a certain kind of confidence that walks into a room before you say a single word. You've probably seen it before. Someone steps in, and without doing anything dramatic, they carry a presence that makes people notice. It's not just their posture or the way they move, it's the way everything about them feels put together in a way that's true to who they are. That's the quiet power of dressing with intent. The way you dress isn't about chasing every fashion trend or wearing something expensive. It's about understanding what works for you, your body type, your personality, your lifestyle, and then choosing clothing that aligns with that. The Stoics would see this as living in harmony with your nature. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Let the outward show be plain, but the inward character true." Dressing with intent means finding that balance, presenting yourself well without becoming obsessed with appearances, and making sure what you wear feels like an extension of you, rather than a costume. Intentional style starts with fit. You can wear the most expensive clothes in the world, but if they don't fit you properly, they'll look sloppy. Likewise, simple, well-fitted clothing can make you look polished and confident, even if it's not from a luxury brand. The Stoics believed in simplicity. Seneca wrote, "Simplicity of character is the natural result of profound thought. A clean, well-fitted shirt, trousers or jeans that sit right, shoes that are clean and cared for." These are simple choices, but they speak volumes. Color also plays a role in how you're perceived and how you feel. Certain colors can make you look more energized, approachable, or authoritative. You don't need to overthink it, but it's worth knowing which tones work best for your complexion and which combinations make you feel the most like yourself. Carl Jung's work in psychology often explored archetypes, identities that carry certain energies in a similar way. The colors and styles you choose carry an energy into every room you enter. They can amplify how you want to feel that day: calm, bold, focused, or approachable. Another part of dressing with intent is consistency. Your style doesn't have to be rigid, but it should be recognizable. Think of it as your visual signature, something people start to associate with you over time. This doesn't mean you wear the same thing every day, but that there's a clear thread connecting your choices. It might be a preference for classic pieces, a love for minimalism, or a taste for subtle details. Michel de Montaigne once said, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself." Your style should belong to you, not to trends, not to peer pressure, not to someone else's expectations. Dressing with intent also means preparing for the day you're about to have. If you have an important meeting, dress in a way that makes you feel sharp and capable. If you're meeting friends, wear something that's relaxed but still reflects care. When your clothing matches the energy of the situation, you feel more comfortable and confident, and that ease translates into your interactions. There's a psychological shift that happens when you dress well. The act of choosing clothes that fit, flatter, and feel right sends a signal to your brain: I'm ready. You carry yourself differently. You speak with more assurance. People respond to you with more attention. This isn't about superficiality. It's about the connection between mind and body. When you feel good in what you're wearing, you project that feeling outward and others can sense it. Of course, dressing with intent doesn't mean overcomplicating your wardrobe. In fact, having fewer but better pieces often makes it easier quality over quantity is a rule that applies as much to clothing as it does to life. Invest in items that last, that you can wear in multiple ways, and that still look good. After repeated use, this approach not only saves you time and money in the long run, but it also simplifies your daily decisions, leaving more energy for the things that truly matter. Accessories can also play a role in intentional dressing. A well-chosen watch, a belt that matches your shoes, or even a subtle piece of jewelry can tie an outfit together and add a layer of refinement. The key is not to overdo it. Each piece should have a purpose, either functional or aesthetic, just as in Stoic philosophy, where every action should align with reason. Every element of your outfit should feel deliberate, not random. One thing that often gets overlooked in dressing with intent is grooming. Even the best outfit loses impact if it's paired with neglect in personal care. Cleanliness, well-kept hair, maintained shoes. These small details are part of the bigger picture. Seneca reminded us a well-governed mind can be recognized by the moderation of its speech and the simplicity of its dress. Extend that simplicity to grooming, and you'll always present yourself in a way that reflects inner discipline. Another important aspect is authenticity. There's no point in wearing something that looks great on someone else but feels unnatural to you. Clothing should enhance who you are, not mask it. People can sense when you're uncomfortable in what you're wearing, and it undermines the confidence you're trying to project. Dressing well also has an element of respect, not just for yourself, but for others. When you take the time to present yourself thoughtfully, you're showing the people you meet that you value their time and the interaction. Whether it's a job interview, a first date, or simply meeting a friend for coffee, your appearance sets the tone for the encounter. In this way, style becomes part of the social contract. It's a way of saying, I care enough to show up as my best self. If you're unsure where to start with dressing with intent, begin by observing. Notice the outfits that make you feel the most confident. Identify the cuts, colors, and styles you gravitate toward. Pay attention to how different clothing affects your mood and the way others interact with you. Over time, you'll refine a style that feels natural and powerful for you. In the end, dressing with intent is not about impressing strangers. It's about aligning your outer self with your inner self. It's about making choices that reflect who you are and who you want to become. The Stoics taught that we should live according to our principles, and that includes how we carry ourselves in the world. When you dress in a way that's true to you, you're not just wearing clothes, you're wearing confidence, discipline, and self-respect. And in a world where first impressions happen in seconds, that silent communication can open doors before you've even spoken a word. 14. Control your reactions. There's a certain kind of strength that has nothing to do with physical power, status, or how loudly you can speak. It's the ability to hold your center when everything around you is shaking. You've probably seen it, someone in the middle of chaos, and yet their voice stays steady, their posture relaxed, their mind clear. They don't get pulled into the storm. Instead, they become the calm at the center of it. That's the power of controlling your reactions. We live in a world that rewards instant responses, quick comebacks, rapid opinions, emotional reactions. People are encouraged to speak before thinking and act before reflecting. But the Stoics saw this as dangerous. Controlling your reactions doesn't mean suppressing your emotions or pretending you don't feel them. It means being aware of them, understanding where they're coming from, and choosing how to express them in a way that serves you instead of sabotaging you. This kind of composure is magnetic, or simply reminding yourself that your reaction is always a choice. It's also worth noting that controlling your reactions doesn't mean being passive. You can be calm and still be assertive. You can be steady and still be decisive. The difference is that your actions come from a place of clarity, not from being swept away by the first wave of emotion. The Stoics didn't avoid strong feelings, they simply refused to be ruled by them. Another powerful benefit of mastering your reactions is that it creates space for better judgment. When you're not blinded by frustration, anger, or fear, You can see the situation more objectively. You can consider long-term consequences instead of chasing short-term relief. This is the difference between reacting to a moment and responding to a reality. Epictetus compared it to being an archer. Once you release the arrow, you can't control it anymore. Your control lies in how you aim before you let go. In relationships, controlling your reactions builds trust. It tells people they can approach you without fear of explosive responses. It means disagreements can stay productive instead of turning destructive. This doesn't mean you never show emotion. It means you choose how and when to show it, so that it strengthens the connection rather than damages it. Montaigne once said, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself." Owning your reactions is a big part of that belonging. Even in everyday life, this skill pays off, whether it's a delayed flight, a rude comment, or an unexpected setback. Keeping your composure means you stay in control of your time and energy. You don't waste hours replaying the situation in your head or crafting imaginary arguments. You accept what's outside your control and focus on what you can influence next. That's a deeply Stoic way to live, not avoiding discomfort, but meeting it with steadiness. If you want to start strengthening this ability, begin with your body. When you feel your emotions, rise, slow down your breathing, relax your shoulders, drop your jaw. Physical relaxation signals to your mind that you're safe. Even in tense situations, then give yourself a question to create distance from the heat of the moment. Will this matter? In a week and a year, this tiny pause can be enough to shift you from reaction to response over time. People will start to notice. They'll realize you're not the kind of person who gets thrown off easily. They'll come to see you as dependable in crisis, thoughtful in conflict, and measured in decision-making. This doesn't just make you more respected, it makes you more effective in everything you do. The Stoics would argue that self-control is the foundation for all other virtues. Without it, your wisdom is clouded, your courage is reckless, and your justice is inconsistent with it. You can navigate life with the kind of grace and strength that others admire, but can't always name. In the end, controlling your reactions isn't about suppressing who you are. It's about becoming the master of how you show who you are. It's about turning raw emotion into refined action. And when you can do that, when you can remain calm, when the world tries to shake you, you become more than someone people. Like you become someone they trust, someone they follow, and someone they remember, because in a noisy, reactive world, your steadiness will speak louder than any outburst ever could. 15. Create space for yourself. There's something fascinating about people who don't seem to be everywhere all the time. They aren't constantly in your inbox. They're not always the first to respond to every message, and they're not showing up at every single event just to be seen. And yet, when they do appear, it feels like something shifts in the room. People notice, they listen more closely. Their presence feels intentional, not accidental. That's because they've learned a truth most people overlook. If you want your presence to hold weight, you have to create space for yourself. We live in an age of overexposure. Social media, constant messaging, and an expectation for instant replies have made us believe that being always available is a sign of connection or care. But in reality, being constantly accessible can work against you. It erodes your sense of independence, drains your emotional energy, and makes people take your time and attention for granted. The Stoics understood the danger of being too accessible to everyone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. Your time, your emotional energy, and your mental focus are things you can control, and that control begins with setting boundaries." There's also an undeniable psychology behind absence. When you're constantly present, people begin to normalize you. They stop noticing the effort you bring because they're used to it being there on demand. But when you create space, when you're intentionally absent at times, your return feels like an event. People lean in more, listen more, and appreciate you more because they've had to wait for it. As the old saying goes, absence doesn't just make the heart grow fonder, it makes the mind more attentive. One of the challenges of creating space is the fear of being forgotten. We worry that if we're not constantly visible, people will lose interest. But the reality is often the opposite. Strategic absence increases interest. Think about the most respected figures in any field. They're not constantly talking. They choose their moments. They protect their energy, so that when they do show up, they have something worth sharing. This doesn't mean you vanish without explanation or play manipulative games. Healthy space comes from healthy boundaries. It means sometimes saying no without guilt, turning down invitations that don't align with your priorities, or not responding to every message immediately just because it was sent. It's about living at a pace that allows for depth instead of being pulled into constant surface-level interactions. Space also creates clarity when you step back from constant engagement. You can see things more objectively, your relationships, your work, your goals. The Stoics valued this kind of detachment, not as a rejection of life, but as a way to see it more clearly. Marcus Aurelius advised himself daily to take the view from above, to step back and see life in its larger context. That kind of perspective only comes when you give yourself room to breathe. The benefits of creating space extend beyond your personal well-being. They impact how others treat you when you respect your own time. Others learn to respect it too when you make it clear that your attention is valuable. People start valuing it more, and when you're not always available, your presence stops being taken for granted. There's also a creative power in absence. Some of the best ideas, insights, and breakthroughs happen when you step away from the noise, when you're constantly in motion. Your mind doesn't have room to wander, to connect ideas, or to see new possibilities. That's why so many great thinkers, artists, and leaders valued solitude, not as isolation, but as fertile ground for innovation. Creating space doesn't mean cutting yourself off from others. It means balancing connection with separation. It's the rhythm of presence and absence that makes both meaningful. Think of music without the pauses. Between notes, there's no melody. Without space, life becomes a constant blur with no defining moments. To start creating more space, you don't need to make drastic changes. Begin with small steps. Block out certain hours each day where you're unavailable. No phone, no social media, no interruptions. Dedicate time each week for activities that restore you, whether that's reading, walking, meditating, or simply sitting in silence when you feel pulled into situations that drain you. Ask yourself, is this the best use of my energy right now? That question alone can help you choose more intentionally. Over time, you'll notice that creating space changes the way you feel and the way others perceive you. You'll feel more centered, more in control, and more purposeful in your actions. People will start noticing the difference in your presence. Not because you're there more often, but because when you are there, you're fully there. You're not drained, distracted, or stretched thin. You're engaged, grounded, and alive. In the end, creating space for yourself is an act of self-respect. It's a way of saying, I am not here to be consumed endlessly. I am here to live intentionally. It allows you to give more fully when you choose to engage, to preserve your energy for the moments that matter, and to let your presence carry the kind of weight that only comes from not being everywhere all the time. Because here's the truth. If you're always available, you become background noise. But if you create space, you become a voice worth hearing. Absence makes your presence not just valuable, it makes it unforgettable. And in a world that's constantly clamoring for more, that's one of the most powerful things you can give yourself at the end of the day. The life you live is shaped less by what you chase and more by what you choose to protect: your time, your energy, your presence. Create space for yourself, and you'll find that what truly matters. This is the Stoic Tide. If this message resonated with you, if it awakened something ancient, calm, and powerful,